Hey everybody. For someone who is building a custom water cooling system, one of the things you may be looking for is what kind of coolant to use in your system. Well, there's one coolant in particular I'm going to be talking about today, and that's PrimoChill PC Ice PC Cooling Liquid. You can get it on Amazon. It claims to be a non-conductive coolant that has all the additives already in the coolant to inhibit the growth of algae and other stuff in your coolant. The Fluid XP Plus I had in this system from 2011 through 2017, yes, all that time, never flushed it. Had that coolant in there that long and did not have any issues with algae. Or at least not to a very severe extent. I mean, for 6 years, never had any major problems. Whereas this stuff here, I want you guys to look at this. MidTower Deluxe was upgraded back in late December. I finished the upgrade on New Year's Day, January of this year, 2018. That was roughly when I filled the system with this coolant. Here it is about mid-October. And I want you guys to have a look at this. So the tubing I use is a tubing from Lowe's. It's normally clear as can be. You can see how it looks cloudy. There's a tint to it. But also, let's look inside the reservoir. Do you see that, guys? Look at all the junk in there. I mean, seriously, it looks like a dang aquarium. Yeah, guys, that's algae growing in my system. Growing in my water cooling loop. This coolant does not inhibit the growth of algae. Matter of fact, I think they just take distilled water and package it in a container that says non-conductive PC Ice coolant. I mean, seriously. Have a look at that. This stuff is junk. Avoid it by all means. Do not use this stuff in your water cooling system. Otherwise, you'll be like me in 10 months, having to flush all this crap out. And by crap, I also mean not just the algae, but the coolant. Yeah, the PrimoChill PC Ice non-conductive PC cooling liquid. Yeah, I gotta get that out of there because obviously it's failing to do its job. When you purchase a water cooling liquid, a pre-made liquid, one of the things you expect for it to have is a sort of like a biocide or chemical in the coolant that inhibits the growth of algae and other nasties. But this stuff here apparently does not have that, or it does not have enough of it to do its job. So give me just a moment here. We're going to grab the turkey baster and suck some out and have a look at it. Okay, I'm going to unscrew the cap. Set my flashlight in an area where hopefully you can still see what I'm doing here. Now, I don't think this stuff is actually just pure distilled water. It does have a smell to it. I remember this when I first got it. By the way, this is what we're getting now. No, it does not look crystal clear like it did in the packaging when I got this stuff. Turkey baster should be enough to get most of the stuff out of here. We will have a small spot over here where the water block is, and that's going to take probably a few flushes to get it all out of there. I could go in and disconnect one of the lines off the water block, but I'd really just rather not. I want you guys to look at the bottom of this turkey baster. Yeah, that's horrible. Notice how cloudy this stuff looks? Has a little bit of a sweet smell to it. Doesn't exactly smell the same as what I remember aquariums to smell like when they get nasty like this. But yeah, it's definitely nasty. That's for certain. Okay, so I'm going to try to continue draining this thing out and see what we get. Okay, so what I'm going to do here is I'm going to disconnect the return line from the reservoir. That way I can blow inside the hose and help use that air pressure to sort of push this fluid out of the reservoir, and of course the whole thing's turning. That's great. Maybe you don't know why such a big pair of channel locks. Well, it's the first thing I could find. Okay, that was a success. I'm gonna blow through this tube, see if I can get some of this stuff to get out of inside the radiator and all that. Yeah. It's working. It is working. Too much there. Okay, now it's going to turkey baster some more of that out of there. In case you're wondering, yes, the machine does not have power going to it right now. Power supply is switched off. I think this is one of the big advantages of having, the pump and reservoir outside the system, is for easier serviceability. This stuff is disgusting. Alright, see if I can blow any more out of the radiator and water block. Alright, get back to base ring. Yeah, the last time I drained this, which was when I had to repair a crack in this reservoir, I used a vacuum pump to actually suck it down. The turkey baster does pretty much the same exact thing. It's a lot less of a hassle. Sorry if my elbow's in the way. So I've been looking online at what people have been recommending for flushing out a water cooling system. My system isn't restricted or anything like that. Just want to make sure we get it taken care of before it gets to that point. What people recommended, most people recommended, was using a mixture of distilled vinegar and water to start the flush, and do that maybe a couple of times, then flush it with fully distilled water maybe once or twice, and after that go ahead and drain the system and put in your coolant. Okay, so I didn't mention already, there's still going to be a little bit of coolant left in the system. That's okay. That's one of the reasons why we do multiple flushes, is to get that stuff out. And now we'll just go ahead and suck out what's left in there. There's going to be just a tad bit left in the bottom of the reservoir. This is the method I use to flush my Jeep's power steering system, by the way, and it proved to be very effective. Use the same exact turkey baster, but I made dang sure I cleaned it up very well before using it for this. So it's safe to say this turkey baster will never be used for kitchen duties. Yeah, this coolant looks awful. Oh yeah. This is disgusting. Yeah, that's awful. This is disgusting. Guys, don't ever buy this product. It sucks dearly. I'll just say it that way. It is not a great product. So now what I'm going to do is go ahead and reconnect this return line and proceed to filling this system with a mixture of water and vinegar. Now, some people say, oh, you can use tap water, which I'm on city water, by the way. While others were like, use distilled water. I picked up 2 gallons, actually. I picked up 2 gallons of distilled water, since distilled water is pretty cheap. It's like less than $1 for a gallon of it. Not sure if this thing's threaded on there properly or not. And these are the original compression fittings that came with the Thermaltake Big Water 735 liquid cooling system. Matter of fact, the only components in this system that have those original fittings are the pump and the reservoir. Make sure that's on there pretty tight, not extreme, but and I'm going to have to re-glue this reservoir back on later on. It's come loose on this side over here, which, by the way, the crack I had to seal, if I mentioned the crack, I think I did, was like right along here. It's a little hairline crack, and the way I sealed it was by applying about 5 applications of super glue, and that sealed it right up. Actually, pretty impressed. So now, go ahead and fill this thing up with half and half distilled water and distilled vinegar. Okay, I went ahead and actually off camera rewired my radiator fans to be powered off the motherboard, so that way I can vary the speed of them. But here's what I'm about to put in the system. I'm going to do 50-50 between this and this. This is distilled water. This is white distilled vinegar. And just so you know, on the front of the package it tells you diluted with 1 to 5% acidity. Keep that in mind if you're shopping for something like this to flush out your system. I spent quite a bit of time just looking on forum sites, and you know, like anything, you're going to see lots of different opinions from people all over the place. But from what I was able to gather, I decided I think this will be the best way to do it. Vinegar is a well-known agent for cleaning, especially in the kitchen. You can use it to clean out your coffee pot, among other things. And you don't want to use something like bleach or whatnot in a water cooling system here, because that could do some serious harm to plastics and your vinyl tubing and stuff like that. So anyways, let's go ahead and get this into the system. Okay, well, what I've done here is I have mixed the water and vinegar together. How I did this was I used a separate container, poured the water in, poured the vinegar in, and then poured it into this pitcher. That should have done a pretty decent job of mixing the two together. All it's really doing is just further diluting the vinegar. So, go ahead and start filling this up. Now here's the thing. You don't want to run the pump dry. So I'm going to fill this up as high as I can. Okay, so I got it almost up to the high point. Sorry if I ruined your guys' lighting experience. I'm going to move the flashlight here so I can better see inside the res. Fill this up as high as possible without spilling. Now, here comes the fun part. Racing the pump to make sure that what's the word? Make sure I don't run it too low and run air into the pump. Well, I did get a little air in, but it's okay. The key thing is, as long as you're not running it as long as you're not running it there dry for a long period of time, because what can happen is if you do, it can damage your pump bearings, and we don't need to do that. So now the motherboard is powering the radiator fans. I spilled just a little bit there. I'm going to log in and check hardware monitor, make sure the CPU is not getting too hot. While the system works the air out. CPU is running fine. It's running at a nice and cool 27 degrees Celsius. So now I just need to go ahead and put this back up to the full mark. And we'll let this run. I tell you guys, there's lots of nasty crap floating around in there. That vinegar will help loosen it up from the components, like the reservoir, the tubing, and the radiator, and the water block, all that stuff. So now I'm going to go ahead and close up the system. And one thing we'll try to do is I'm going to dial down the fans on the radiator, dial them down probably as low as I can, because I want to get this coolant nice and hot, because it works better that way. I could have used hot tap water, but I decided no, better not. Or I could have boiled the distilled water, but go ahead and close this up. I have just a little bit left over. I made sure I had too much. I tell you, it's amazing how fast this pump runs. I mean, it moves. It runs a whole lot faster than the P400 Thermaltake pump that was on this system previously. In case you're wondering about this pump, it's doing fine. It's the made in China SC600 water pump I got off eBay for like $20-something when I did this build. And it's been going fine for nearly 10 months of constant power on use. And of course, the water pump is something you don't want to skimp on, but I did my research when I looked up this pump, and people had good things to say about it. And so far, it's been working just fine. Okay, by now we're sitting in the BIOS, or the SEP utility. I've configured what I did is I had to go in and actually switch around my water pump and radiator fans. I had to switch the plugs around because this motherboard does not offer DC control on the CPU fan header, but the CPU optional fan header it does. And I'm just powering the water pump off the CPU fan header, and now have the radiator fans off the CPU optional fan header. So right now, you just have a listen. Fans are running full speed. Watch what happens when I set them to silent. Things get quite a bit quieter. Here's standard mode. Even in standard mode, they are much quieter. It reminds me of that HP computer. Now, the MidTower Deluxe is about as quiet as the Black Max is. Pretty much the only thing you really hear right now is the water pump. So not too bad. Not too much noise for a system that has so many fans. I'm going to leave it in silent because what I want to do is I want to heat the coolant up a good bit. It'll clean better once it is at a higher temperature. Now, I think I mentioned this already. I can't remember if I did or not, so I mentioned it again. So I'm going to save changes and get into Windows. It should quieten down in a moment. There we go. Yeah, because what I did is with the 4 fans on the radiator, they're 4 92mm fans. If I look at the specifications on them, they each call for about 0.15 amps. So altogether it's about 0.6 amps, which is less, matter of fact, is less than what the water pump itself calls for. So I figured it's well within the tolerance of what the motherboard's controller can handle. So I installed a header that offers both the 3-pin connector and a 4-pin connector. So if I do want to go back to powering those fans off the power supply, I can. It's like, wow, I can hear myself think now. This is a whole lot quieter. But I'll probably end up setting it back to like standard mode to where the fans are running a little bit faster. Let's see what the processor is running at right now. Yeah, it's running pretty decently cool. It kind of goes around a little bit, probably getting fully loaded there. Now this is actually at the I believe this is actually on the CPU die. Yeah, I wish I'd have done this years ago. Well, I wish I'd have done this when I did the upgrade. Because not only is it much quieter, but it's also putting less wear and tear on the fans. This is the quietest MidTower Deluxe has been in a long time. So, anyways, now what I'm going to do, back to our topic of flushing out this system, I'm going to let this run for a pretty good little bit. And I guess tomorrow I'll go ahead and do another flush, maybe another vinegar flush, or go to distilled. We'll see how that goes. Okay everybody, it's nearly a week later and it's time for an update on what I did with the MidTower Deluxe. So, I had put in a 50-50 mix of vinegar and distilled water and ran that through for a few hours to help loosen up some of the algae and crap that was in the system. It wasn't too bad. Luckily, I decided to go ahead and take care of it before it got too bad. What I eventually ended up doing was I brought the MidTower Deluxe in here to the kitchen, got all the stuff off the counter, and this faucet happens, it's a pull-out faucet. What I did is I actually unthreaded this piece off to where I just had the hose, and inside here was kind of a wedge sort of fitting, and I was able to just wedge that into the lines on the system. What I did is I disconnected the supply line from the water pump and the return line off the top of the reservoir, and I did a forward flush, back flush, back and forth for about 15 minutes or so with scalding hot water. I guess I can call it the power flush. And let me say, it worked very well. It got all the crap out of the system, and I took the reservoir off the top of the machine, rinsed it out really well, got all the crap out inside of it, and let's go and have a look at the end result. So as I mentioned, I did the power flush, and yeah, I was a bit worried. I was kind of concerned that I would potentially overcome one of the seals in the system, which that did not happen. It was a good test of all the seals, the rubber O-rings, the seal in the water block, and all the connections. It was a good test. Now, if your system is like severely clogged, I wouldn't suggest running water pressure from your tap into your system, because yeah, a lot of times your radiator, your hoses and stuff like that aren't designed to hold up to that kind of pressure. So essentially, as mentioned, I disconnected at the pressure fittings, disconnected the hoses on here and here, and fed them over toward a sink. And I wedged the hose off the faucet into this line and into this line, back forth a few times. And I guess what I should say is the fitting wasn't watertight. Let's say the pressure was too high, and let's say there was a restriction in my water cooling loop, the water would escape between the end of the hose and the fitting off my faucet. So it wasn't exactly a tight fitting. So, but anyways, as I mentioned, I don't know if I would recommend doing this on a system where you have something that's like really clogged up. My system wasn't clogged up or anything. It just had some algae growing inside the reservoir and inside the radiator. Yeah, quite a bit come out of the radiator. And as mentioned in a previous clip, I used extremely hot water. Well, my water heater is set to like 125 degrees, but yeah, it was really hot on my hand. I was shining a flashlight inside to look at the water block to make sure there was no leaks. There was no leaks at all. Did this for quite a bit of time, and then I flushed everything out, got all the tap water out of the system, and I replaced it with this. Now here is the tubing from Lowe's, and it isn't exactly clear like I thought it was, so it does look a little cloudy. Well, that's why. It's actually the tubing. What's in here now is a 50-50 mix of distilled water and 50-50 blend automotive antifreeze. Some people are like, oh, you shouldn't use antifreeze in your computer, it's bad for it, and blah 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 blah. Well, I'm gonna be honest with you. This Big Water 735 kit, well, what's left of it, the original Big Water 735 water cooling system, guess what its coolant consisted of? Ethylene glycol. Yep. Which is essentially antifreeze. It smelled exactly, because when I got this system, it was used. By the way, it was used. The water cooling loop was installed inside of a system that I bought from the computer work store back in 2011. Still had the coolant in it, all that good stuff. And it smelled just like automotive antifreeze. Some PC coolants do have either ethylene glycol or I think it's called propylene glycol. The latter is a safer, non-toxic version. I do not have pets in my house, with the exception of a parakeet and a snake, which are in a cage and terrarium respectively. I don't have any cats or dogs in the house. Perhaps if you have a water cooling system, I wouldn't exactly suggest putting ethylene glycol in your system, that's really up to you, I think. I'm going to do a separate video discussing this. But now I have a 50-50 blend of distilled water and 50-50 blend automotive antifreeze. So essentially it's 25% antifreeze, 75% distilled water. And you're wondering, Nick, why'd you use antifreeze? Well, to be honest, I already had some on hand. It's what I had available at that time. I did not feel like waiting on shipping I did not feel like waiting on shipping out some actual PC coolant. Definitely wasn't going to be anything from PrimoChill. So here it is, working just fine, clean as can be. Now this reservoir, you may notice how I've had to seal up this over here. You know, back when I redone this system around New Year's, I noticed a crack had formed in the reservoir, and apparently it had been leaking for some time. The thing was, if my coolant level was at the low mark or lower, it did not leak out, because the crack was starting like right up in this area. Because I noticed when I had it up to the high mark, it was you can see the rust stain on top of the machine where the stuff had been leaking out slowly. It was a really slow leak. And I used super glue to patch it up. Well, when I took the system apart and flushed out this reservoir, apparently the crack had spread a little further, so I had to go across here again with more super glue. So if anybody watching this video here in the States, if you happen to have a reservoir off of a Thermaltake Big Water 735 water cooling system from 2006, just kicking around, I might be interested in it, because I would like to replace. I would like to replace this reservoir, because it needs to be replaced. This is why I guess this is more of a band-aid on it, which, I mean, it's working fine. It's not leaking anymore, but yeah, it needs to be replaced. So back to what I said in the beginning of this video. If you happen to see some PrimoChill PC Ice coolant on Amazon, just skip it. Don't waste your time with it. You will likely be just like me, where I had to flush out my system, get all this aquarium crap out of my system. This algae. Yeah, it was awful. Well, it wasn't awful, I guess I could say, because it hadn't got to the point where things were really, really, really bad. But it definitely needed to take action and get it out of my system. In case you're wondering, the system does not see that much sunlight. I mean, that window there during the afternoon, especially during the summer, you know, I get some sunlight into there, but overall this room does not see much direct sunlight. Had this machine been in direct sunlight, it would have been a whole lot worse, I'd imagine. So anyways, hope you guys enjoyed this video. Thanks for watching. Well guys, that's it for this one. But it doesn't have to be. There's plenty more videos on the channel to check out. Also, if you liked the video, please click the like button. And if you absolutely hated it, there is the alternative button as well. But yeah, please subscribe to the channel. I definitely appreciate it. And remember to click the bell so that we get notified of all updates. Also, if you're interested in things aside from computers and technology, check out my second channel. It's CubeComp MTDX. Over there you'll find videos about weather, elevators, bicycling, and pretty much whatever else I figure out to upload. So yeah, anyways, hope you guys enjoyed this video, and thank you for your support.